video is for the lesson 7.6 homework. So we're going to be solving square roots today using, or solving quadratics using square roots. Okay? So these are a little bit easier to find than the completing the squares. These are when we've got something squared and it equals something, and they both have to be perfect squares. But what makes these so easy? So again, perfect squares, if you look on that page that I gave you at the start of this unit, it's got all your perfect squares listed so you can find them, okay? But all you have to do is square root both sides, okay? So the square root cancels the exponent of 2, so that's x equals. And then the square root of 1 is positive or negative 1. Every time that you square root a number, it's going to have two answers, the positive and the negative. Because I can do positive 1 times positive 1, and that gives me positive 1. And then I can do negative 1 times negative 1, and that gives me positive 1. So just kind of keep that in mind. X squared plus 6. So what I can do here, again, I don't have an x term. So these are for when there's no x term in there. It's just an x squared term, and then it's just a number. But I want to move this to this side. So I've got x squared, this will cancel, and then 57 minus 6 is 51. And then I can just square root both sides. So this is going to cancel that squared sign. And then here, the square root of 51, that's as simple as we can get. So our answer is just positive, negative, square root of 51. Can you still quadratic formula these? Absolutely. Make sure all your pieces are on the right side, and I'll show you what it would look like if you did that on a different one. All right, we don't ever want to square root a negative, but I've got a negative on both sides. So remember, I can do anything to this equation as long as I do it to both sides. So what can I do that will get rid of a negative sign? Not add. Well, I mean, technically you could swap the sides, or if you multiply or divide by a negative 1, it changes the signs. And again, that's what we want. We want positives. We don't ever want to square root a negative because we don't square root negatives this year. So we square root and square root. This cancels this. Square root of 31, that's as simple as it gets. So I just have to make sure to put the plus negative in front of it. I'm going to skip this one. Just make sure you're moving your pieces. And this one you're going to have to, well, let's get this one set up. Let's do that. So we're going to add 5 to both sides. So we're going to have negative 5x squared equals, and this is going to be a negative 150. And then we're going to divide by a negative 1 to make everything positive. So we're going to have 5x squared equals 150. Then we want just an x squared. So how do I get that 5 away from that? Not subtract it. Divide it because they're smushed together. So this would cancel and give me x squared. 150 divided by 5 is going to give me a 30. So that's, I'm going to leave that for you to solve just at that point. That's where you have to go from there. Okay? So that's if 5 is not a perfect square. Okay? Sometimes, though, we can kind of finagle a little bit. So this one, I'm going to add 1 to both sides. So I've got 49x squared. 3 plus 1 is 4. Okay, I don't want anything in front of the x. Remember, we want just x by itself as much as we can. So we're going to divide this by 49. Divide this by 49. That way I'm left with x squared equals 4 over 49. And then we square root both sides. Here's what happens when you square root a fraction. Each part of the fraction can get its own cool little square root sign. Okay? I'm going to write it that way. So what's the square root? So we know this is going to be plus or negative. Anytime you square root, your answer is going to be positive or negative. What's the square root of 4? 2. What's the square root of 49? 7. So I just want to show you in your calculator too, you can square root the entire fraction and it gives you 2/7. Or you can set up the fraction and do the square root of 4 on top, square root of 49 on bottom, and it gives you 2/7, just to kind of show you that those are equivalent. It doesn't matter how you type it into the calculator. Okay, let's look at number 2. So this one, if I square root both sides here, I've got x equals the positive negative square root of 54. This is not in simplest form. So this is a gross one. So like these are in simplest form. 51, that's a prime number. That's as simple as it gets. 31, that's a prime number. That's as simple as it gets. But 54 is not. So I can break 54 down. Again, majority of the time, these are multiple choice. Okay? And that will help. So 54 is 2 times 27. And I'm just dividing by 2s and 3s. I'm trying to pull out as many little tiny numbers as possible. That's always where I start. If I can't pull out a 2 or a 3, can I pull out a 5? Can I pull out a 7? And that's usually as far as I go when I factor stuff, is up into like 7s. Occasionally an 11 if I know it's a multiple of 11, but not much further than that. But 27 is 3 times 9. Ooh. And then 9 is 3 times 3. So remember to simplify. We need to be able to make a pair. So x equals positive negative. I've got a pair of 3s, which means I can pull that 3 out, and then I'm left with a 2 and a 3. I multiply what's left over. 2 times 3 is a 6. So I know that is something new to you. Again, if it's multiple choice, plug in your answers and compare your decimals. Okay? I'm going to make it really easy on y'all today. I'm going to leave you with 4. Okay? But I want to show you another one like this. So here, I want to get the 4 away, but it's a negative 4. So I'm going to divide by a negative 4. So I would have x squared equals, what, 12? Is that right? Negative 144 divided by negative 4. Oh, 36. Don't listen to me. 36. So I square root both sides. So this cancels this. X equals, and again, here's how you tell. Square root of 36, use this page and go down. There it is. So you know it's a perfect square. Square root of 36 is just a 6, positive, negative 6. But that page really does make it, we can kind of go through them quick and determine that's as far as they go, or they'll go to this. So out of the 4 that I left you, 2 nice pretty numbers. 1 is a square root like this, but it doesn't have to be broken down. Once you get it to the square root, it's fine. And then 1 is, your answer is going to be a fraction like this. So 2 nice pretty answers. 1 answer that looks like this. 1 answer that is a fraction. Okay? If you get stuck, let me know. Let me help.